I begin with the beautiful names of the Supreme God, Parmeshwar, Sarveshwara, Srishti Karta, Akshara Parabrahma, Yehovah, Allah and Vaheguru. Namaste, praise the Lord, Sasriyakal, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May peace, mercy and blessings of our Creator be upon all of you. In the previous video, we have briefly discussed the misfortunes and calamities befalling the Muslims worldwide as well as in India. Before going into further discussion regarding their solutions, there are some important principles and approaches which I would like to share with you. In this video, two simple, common and acceptable approaches that we usually use in our day-to-day life to overcome problems and achieve success. The first one is PDCA. You will be familiar with the PDCA cycle. PDCA stands for Plan, Do, Check and Act. Most management systems are based on the PDCA cycle. For example, the ISO 9001 is the quality management system, ISO 14001 is the environmental management system, and ISO 45001 is the health and safety management system. The idea is that initially, as step number one, we will design and set our aims, objectives and targets in our area of interest. We will then plan our policies, approach, strategies, organizing, which means deciding who will do what, all the while making sure that we have appropriate precautionary measures in place, such as hazard identification and risk assessment, to predict reasonably foreseeable harm and use suitable controls in order to achieve our targets. The step number two is do. We will do everything we have planned. In other words, we will implement our plans, that is our policies, procedures, strategies, everything. Step number three is to check. Check at regular appropriate intervals of time using our key performance indicators how successful or unsuccessful we have been in achieving our targets. Step number four is act. Here we review our performance, identify change, and whenever we find that our objectives have not been accomplished or that we have incurred losses, we will identify the causes and address them. We will then take the corrective and preventive actions that will not only resolve the problems and prevent them from reoccurring in the future, but also act as an input to the plan that will then be updated and the whole cycle continues. This is the PDCA cycle of continual improvement in brief. In our society, we observe that people and organizations adopt this approach professionally in worldly matters like professional development, business, quality, safety and environmental protection, etc. But very rarely do we find people or organizations effectively using this approach for religious and spiritual purposes. The overwhelming majority of Muslims, divided into many sects and groups, are blindly doing what they have been doing for decades, and many do not even like to entertain the thought of review and correction. It's not like there have not been reformers. There have been great reformers, but very quickly the small percentage of people who follow the reformer get stuck with the ideology presented in the initial stage and resist further continual improvements. And when the problems they face become more and more severe, instead of adopting the approach of incident investigation, the majority goes into denial. Allow me to give you a brief overview of incident investigation. Whenever any undesired event occurs, whether number one, it is a near miss, an incident in which no apparent loss occurs, or number two, a damage only incident occurs in which there is only materialistic damage and no human is harmed, or number three, an accident occurs in which people are harmed or killed along with material damage, an investigation is conducted to identify the immediate, underlying and root causes. Subsequently, immediate and longer-term corrective and preventive actions are put into place to control the harm and prevent it from recurring in the future. It is alarming to note that despite the horrifying situations of Muslims worldwide, bombings, killings, rapes, mob lynchings, forced evictions, imprisonment. There is little or no such response among Muslims. No PDCA, no incident investigations. My dear brothers and sisters, we are rapidly moving from one disaster to another. And even before we recover from one calamity, we are afflicted by the next. It is a vicious cycle, and you may have already realized we have very little time remaining to identify our mistakes and take corrective action. I humbly and strongly appeal to every sincere soul among you, yearning for the breakthrough, to firmly resolve to dedicate your precious time, at least some of your precious time, to resolve this issue. We will start by identifying the root causes that led to these misfortunes and then work towards rectifying them in the light of Quran, Hadith, and Sunnah. I believe every single one of you will join hands with one another and work together on the correct solutions swiftly. And believe me, the solutions are very easy. Very easy and very quick results will be achieved. Indeed. Thank you for your time. More in the next video. And until then, peace be with you all.